Welcome to growthtofreedom.com, the show that brings you inspiration, transformation, and leadership. We're helping you connect the dots, see the blind spots, and get unstuck so you can go out and generate more leads, more sales, more profits. More importantly, so you can go out and have a bigger reach, a bigger impact, and make a bigger contribution. Welcome to today's show. Let me ask you, are you looking for a strategy or a series of strategies that can collapse your time frames? In other words, you get a place where you can do more with a lot less, or maybe get what some would call a shortcut, but in a healthy way, right? Well, if so, you are going to love today's segment, today's episode, today's guest expert. Why? We are going to talk about the shortcut to massive success, how to go to the master principle, and a whole lot more. Now, my guest is a good friend of mine that I've known for the better part of 20 years. His name is Timothy Paulson. We got a chance to meet through Joe Polish, of course. All roads lead through Joe. Yep. And his community, ultimately Genius Network, although it was called something else at the time, right? And through our process of what Joe calls genius networking, we've stayed connected, stayed friends. And now you are on a new journey, or a continued journey, I should say, related to your passion, your excitement. And if you're new and you don't know who Timothy Paulson is, he's had a chance to work with some of the top experts in the world, like Joe Polish, like Rory Fatt, like a lot of people who have had a desire to go out and grow their business with a lot less stress, which, as you know, is what our program is all about. So Timothy Paulson is as an artist, number one, amazing artist. You're going to get a taste of that today. You're going to get a great taste of that today. He's an author. He's a speaker. He's the founder of Paulson Creativity Studio and Totality Ministries, which is a nonprofit, and the creator of the new art movement, Totalityism. I can't handle those 10-cent words or those $10 words there, Timothy. Anyway, we're good friends. There's so much we could talk about, but I want to focus on you, Timothy, and your new journey, your new book called TotalityX, some of the principles, and also talk about the go-to, the master principle. But before we get to that, why don't we bring our viewers up to speed? I'd love to just ask you, you've been on this journey 20 plus years. Why are you doing what you're doing today? There's a significant date coming up. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Sure. Well, you cut the time by 20 years. So I've been in the business world for 40 years. And in the last 21, I've had the fortune to work with Joe Polish, who's absolutely brilliant. You and I, as you mentioned, Dan, met through him. So I've been closely aligned with Joe. Prior to that, I was vice president of Hair Club for Men, Cy Sperling. Some of you may remember Cy Sperling. He did these commercials. I'm not only the Hair Club president, I'm also a client. Famous guy. But anyway, so for 40 years, I've been in the business world, self-employed for a significant number of years, working and helping others, as you mentioned, Dan. So 40 years. Now, 40 is a significant number. And it's like the next 40 years are going to be different. So on 2/22/22, that is my 60th birthday. So that's when I am retiring from the business world as we know it.
Yes.
And I am pursuing for the next 40 years, and some people might laugh and say, oh, that puts you at 100. I'm not laughing. The next 40 years are going to be my best years, and that's art and ministry. Now, of course, Dan, taking everything that I've learned in business, the business success principles and including marketing and so forth. If you have this incredibly important message, a lot of people watching this, you probably have some sort of a passion project, or you want to get your message out. Even your business is your passion project. You want to get the message out. When we are effective at marketing, boy, it's so. If we have the greatest message in the world, we have the greatest product in the world, we have the greatest service in the world, but people don't know about it, nothing happens.
That's right. It's like a tree in a forest that falls, but no one was around to see it.
Did it make a noise or not? I don't know, right? Yep. So anyway, so that's what I'm really passionate about, the next 40 years, taking what the experience I've had, moving forward as an artist and in ministry, moving forward and doing great things in the world. To help people, really, the subtitle of my book, you mentioned TotalityX, the subtitle is The Art, and that's not just a figurative something. It is the art, specifically and literally my art, the art of becoming all God created you to be. 16 chapters, 16 pieces of art. The art is illustrative of principles. And so I use my art in a unique way, where I use the art when I created the art, lessons learned. What is this piece of art teaching me? And then I share that. And it's memorable, it's impactful, changes lives. The art of helping you become all God created you to be. So that's kind of where we're from, Dan, and where we're headed.
Now with that, Timothy, again, you've been doing this a long time.
Wait, man, you hurt my feelings by saying that. No, just kidding.
Doing this as long as you have, there's been a lot of changes over 40 years with, old traditional ways of business to the new ways of business, all this tech stuff. We were kind of goofing around before the show about the tech, complexity. It's supposed to simplify, but in many ways it creates complexity. So as you view it, like for you, like what do you see some of the biggest mistakes that most people make as they're looking to build their business, to build their mission? Like your mission is going to be ministry and art. What do you see are some of the big mistakes most people make?
That's a good question, Dan. And we could talk about that for a long time. But those that come up first and foremost are, we don't know what to say no to. And there's opportunity costs. And so everything that you say yes to means that you are saying no to other things, right? So there's too many things where we say yes to it, and then it's like, oh my gosh, it takes us down a particular path, and we don't like the result of that. We don't like where that path has led us to. So being very deliberate about what I say yes to, what I say no to, and really, Dan, retiring on 2/22/22, I'm saying no to a lot of really good things. I'm saying no to, okay, Joe Polish, I'm not going to be working with you anymore. That's a really good thing. Joe's doing some wonderful things. I'm saying no to that so I can say yes to the next 40 years art and ministry. If an individual, the opportunity cost, what is it costing you in your health? What is it costing you in your relationships? So being in the business world for 40 years and hanging out with really successful, financially successful entrepreneurs, I see over and over and over again, boy, I've got a lot of money, but my wife hates me. Boy, I've got a lot of money, but my kids can't stand me. Or I'm alienated from this, or I'm alienated from that. I was listening to a Genius Network member, Ilko DeBoer, speak a couple of weeks ago. And he was saying, most important to me is my family, my relationship with my mother, who lives about an hour away. He's in Holland, right? And he was saying, and then I analyzed how much time am I spending doing everything that I do. So X number sleeping. He told me the hours, X number of hours a week sleeping, or these 2 weeks that he kind of analyzes. This number in my business, working in my business, this number doing this and that, and this number with my family. And it's like, you know what? There's some inconsistency here. This is what's most important to me, and I'm spending the least amount of time there. So I've seen it too often, Dan. Individuals in the business world, their priorities are not exactly right. So, there's a tool, I've seen it in Genius Network, I think it is the what to say no to tool, something like that. And it's a really good exercise. Anybody, you can take a piece of paper, put it at the top and say, what should I say no to? So either eliminate or delegate or do yourself. And so a lot of times, Dan Sullivan, Dan and Ben Hardy, they wrote a book, Who Not How. It's a great book. The premise is, you don't learn how to do everything. You don't do it all yourself. How do I learn how to do this? How do I do this? How do I do? You find the who's. Who can do that for you? And when you think about that from that perspective, it's like nothing in the world is impossible. It's like, if you want to go to the moon, who's the who? Well, maybe Elon Musk is the who. I'm not saying that's easy, but whatever it is, you find the who's to do those things that you personally are saying no to. I'm not going to do that myself. I can delegate that out. So there's other things as well, but that one comes to mind first, Dan, as you ask that question. Be good at saying no. Kindly, don't offend people, but be kind to, be good at saying no to the wrong things, saying yes to the right things, and knowing the difference.
And Timothy, isn't, at the end of the day, isn't ultimate self-care about being kind to ourselves so we can be selfless to serve others, to be kind to them? And as you're watching or you're listening right now, take a quick assessment. How good are you at saying no?
Yeah.
What Timothy talked about, this not to do list concept, right? What are the things that you're doing that should be on your not to do list?
Yep.
And you can have a not to do list. You can have a not now list.
Yeah.
And you can have a to do list, right? 3 layers of this that Joe Polish introduced many years ago, which is adaptation, I believe, from David Bach, right? So are you being kind to yourself? Are you saying no to the things that you should be saying no to for the right reasons, right?
Yep.
Now, you talked about this idea of who, not how. And I think this is a great bridge, Timothy, for, what we prepped for today, which was this idea of the go to the master principle.
Yep.
Right? Speak to why this is important now, probably more than ever in the history of small business or even any success.
Well, there's just, you can't learn it all. You can't, Dan, it's kind of like mind boggling for me. It's like, okay. And you just introduced me to a new platform, StreamYard. I'd never heard of it before. Right. So there's all this type of stuff going on. Right. And, boy, I just want to find the who's. And if I can find a master, someone who's a master at doing something already, that cuts the time of success way down. Now, the thing is, there are some things that we should learn how to do. We are the one who is doing that. It might be your unique ability. For example, I'm an artist, as you mentioned. I'm not going to delegate that. Hey, buddy. Now, some famous artists have done that and continue to do that today. Jeffrey Koons, he has a factory. They create art. He signs it. Okay, it's a Jeffrey Koons piece, for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Andy Warhol did some of the same thing. But I want to create the piece of art myself. So if I want to be an artist or whatever it is, let's say marketing. So in the business world, it's like, I don't want to delegate my marketing. That's too important. I want to learn marketing. I want to become a master at marketing. If you go to the master of marketing or masters of marketing so that you can basically get what they know and understand what they understand, it cuts the time by years. So there's a story I would be delighted to share that, and you tell me when, but it's really illustrative of this principle.
Yeah, and that'd be great, Timothy. And before we get to that, I want to throw a curveball at you here for a second.
Now,
and ask you
college baseball, Dan, so you're throwing me a curveball.
That's right.
I can appreciate it.
Low and away, by the way. You've been doing this 40 years, right? Well, you didn't mention you worked with Hair Club for Men. You were in a C-level role, president role. You helped them grow from I believe it was 19 offices to 100. Help them grow to from small beginnings to over about 100 million plus at the time you were on the clock with them. Right.
Do you want me to correct any of those numbers, or should we just run with that?
Yeah. If you want to correct them, feel free. These are things
Well, just for the record.
Yeah.
So I worked with Eric Clifferman. I became vice president and helped the company go from 8 offices to 69, but $6 million to over $120 million. So yes, Dan, thank you.
Absolutely. And now having worked, behind the scenes, so you've had all kinds of success. You're very active in your church, your ministry over the years, even prior to this next move to 2222. For Tim Paulson, for you and your journey, what do you consider, Timothy, if you had to pick something, especially recently, your greatest mistake or your greatest failure that you've experienced?
So,
and what did you learn from it?
So biggest mistakes. Let me give kind of an historic perspective. So I met Joe Polish in 1996, and he had a long hair ponytail, and he was a carpet cleaner, but he was teaching other carpet cleaners how to market and so forth. And he and I started traveling in the same groups. A Dan Kennedy group is what it was. So Dan Kennedy, great marketer. He had these seminars. So I'd go to these seminars and Joe was there. We got to know each other. And then Joe and I were invited into Dan Kennedy's inner circle. It was his first platinum group. 1998, 1999, there were 18 of us that were in Dan Kennedy's inner circle. That was his first inner circle platinum group. And so I got to know Joe really well at that time. So anyway, I've watched Joe for 26 years now. But here's what I've learned. So the mistake. Joe Polish has never been afraid to write the check.
Yes.
Never been afraid to write the check. So he wrote the check to Gary Halbert. Gary Halbert was a great marketer, great copywriter. Joe paid him a lot of money to learn from the master, Gary Halbert. He paid, maybe millions to Dan Kennedy over the years because he hired him to write copy. He hired Dan to come speak at events and all sorts of stuff, right? Joe was not afraid to write the check. Dan Sullivan, strategic coach. Joe's been in strategic coach for probably about 24, 25 years. He's paid Dan millions of dollars over those years. Joe's not afraid to write the check. And I, going back 25, 26 years, was always afraid to write the check, to make that investment, and others as well. So I remember, we were all kind of on the same level, Joe and me and a bunch of other information marketers in this group with Dan Kennedy. And Joe's trajectory has been like this ever since. And a lot of these other information marketers, they're either out of business or because they were afraid of writing the check. So I've been afraid of hiring a team, a staff, because I didn't want to write the check. I didn't join certain groups that I should have because I was afraid of writing the check or reluctant to write the check. And I looked at the checks as a cost, not as an investment. So Joe spent millions of dollars going to these masters. How much has he received in return? Multiple. It's like, there's an old saying, if you find something that's working, put more money at it. Keep adding, do more of it, right? Hey, here's an ad that worked really, really well. Great. Run it again. Keep running it. Keep throwing money after that. Keep putting the bucket down the well until the bucket comes up dry, right? In terms of so I don't have regret. I look back and I say, okay, my path, Dan, has been great, and I've been able to do some remarkable things, and my business has been successful. I've been able to help Joe for 20 years and so forth. But I wish that I would have, or if I had to do it over again, I would be less reluctant to write the check. So Dan, I know you've got things going on. You're a coach. You've got programs and so forth. Some people might be reluctant to write you the check. And it's like, you asked me the question, that's my answer. And when you look at others who are highly successful, They're not afraid of writing the check to the right places. You don't just arbitrarily just throw money anywhere, but it's like, here is a good investment. Here's something. I'm going to the master, for example. I'm going to the master, Dan Kuschell, or whomever it might be. And that is an investment that I expect to receive a multiple back in return.
That is so good, Timothy. And, thank you for just being vulnerable to be able to share that, because that probably isn't an easy one to be able to do. And, it's so amazing, because like I've watched a lot of your journey. We've known each other a lot of your journey, and to see, your superpowers, your talents, and now this new focus on 22222, and your focus on TotalityX, and your new book at TotalityX.com, and all the other things you're doing with art and ministry. Like, I'm just so excited for you. Like, I just can't wait to see how it all unfolds. And ideally, this will be a part of that journey as well. So let's talk about this idea. You talked about the who, you talked about the situation of a mistake, of not being willing to write the check, and you look to go to the masters.
Yep.
Right. So speak to the go to the master principle.
Oh, I love this. I was raised by a full-time professional artist, and he started taking art lessons in 1962, and his background wasn't as a full-time professional artist. So I'm going to tell you the story of my dad. And it's so illustrative, again, of the go to the master principle. So, Dan, if we can maybe show that, do I have control over this? I do, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so go to the master. So my dad has been on television. You've seen him. So I'm talking to you, listeners, viewers, to Dan's program here. You've seen my dad. You're going through the channels on television, and there's an artist on PBS. You stop and you watch him for a while, and you say, wow, that's really cool. I wish I could do that. Well, that's my dad. Well, I know what you're thinking. Is he Bob Ross? The answer is no. That's the other guy. My dad is Buck Paulson. Now, Buck Paulson, so he's been on PBS since 1989. If you Google Buck Paulson, all sorts of stuff comes up on him, right? So he's a master artist. He's just a fabulous artist. This picture is taken more recently. He's probably, 85 there. He's 87 now, still painting every day beautifully. It's amazing. But I, as a little boy, here I am at the age of 2, painting with my dad. I wish I had that painting, because it would be worth a lot of money. But anyway, so I was raised with a paintbrush in my hand, which has been a great opportunity, a great blessing for me throughout my life. Now, my dad didn't start as an artist. He started as a baseball player. I don't know if you know this, Dan, or not. Maybe I've told you this before, because
yes,
you have a background as a second baseman, I think you were. Is that right?
Shortstop, and then arm injuries led me to second base.
Okay, good. So my dad was a pitcher. He played on the Fargo Moorhead Twins baseball team. He was 17 years old when he signed his first professional contract. So it was a minor league team in the Cleveland Indians organization. And for any of you baseball fans and history, Roger Maris played for the New York Yankees. He hit more home runs in a single season than Babe Ruth, more than anyone before steroids came along. Roger Maris, remarkable baseball player and home run hitter. Well, my dad on the Fargo Moorhead Twins, they were roommates together going to spring training one year. So that's kind of the connection with fame there. But my dad played professional baseball. Then he went into the Army. He served in the Army, and then he went to school, college. He graduated, bachelor's degree in physical education, minor in teaching. And so he got a job in Canada. He played some baseball, but he was a teacher. He was a coach. And then he and my mom in 1962 moved to Santa Barbara. That's where my mom grew up. So they went back to Santa Barbara. And my dad got his dream job. It was recreation department supervisor. So recreation department supervisor, he got to play all day. He was impartially in charge of adult and youth sport programs. So my dad was out there just playing all the time because he's a total jock. My dad just loves to play sports, football, basketball, baseball. So he's got his dream job. But Dan, literally within just a couple of weeks of moving to Santa Barbara, my dad was walking down the sidewalk. He was going to lunch, and he encountered an artist who had a painting set up on an easel on the street. The guy was painting, and my dad stopped and kind of admired him and his work for a few minutes. Next day, same thing. My dad saw this guy's work. He chatted with him, kind of went into a studio. And then my dad went home to my mom one day and he said, "Tweet." That's his name for my mom. It's short for sweetheart. "Tweet, I want to be an artist." Now think about this. He just started this really great new job. He's got 3 young kids. What do you associate with artists? So, well,
starving artists.
Starving artists. So I don't know how excited my mom was at this news that my dad wanted to become an artist, but she said, "Your birthday's in August." This was March of 1962. "Your birthday's in August, and so I'll get you an art kit for your birthday." Well, my dad, and this is a good important principle, he wasn't going to wait around. He saw what he wanted to do, so he went and bought the art kit. He got a paper towel at the kitchen table, and he drew he calls it his first attempt. Now, a couple of things. My dad took one art class in junior high school and high school, just one art class. It was in junior high, and he got a D grade in the class. Dan, he was let me put it this way. He was the least likely candidate to become an artist. There's no way in the world he should have been an artist. Total jock, no interest in art at all. But something started moving within him. It was like, I want to be an artist. So he painted this picture at the kitchen table. And here it is now. So it's a tree. He's got a little burnt umber there on the side. And so years later, my older sister, Dondi, she was probably 8 at the time. She said, "Daddy, how old were you when you painted this picture?" And he asked, "How old do you think I was?" 3? But my dad was 28 years old when he painted this picture. So Dad goes down to, he starts going to art galleries, art studios, visiting different artists. And he encountered someone named Kitty West. So Kitty had an art gallery, and my dad's in there talking to her, and he said, "I want to go to adult education classes. I want to become a great artist. So adult education starts pretty soon, so I'm going to go there." And she said something that totally changed his life. And before I tell you that, let me show you this picture. There's another painting that my dad did. He was into sports art, right? So he's playing around, and he painted this picture of kind of a silhouette, I guess. You've got the batter in the batter circle and also above. But anyway, he went to Kitty West, and Kitty West, hey, again, just to repeat, I want to become a great artist and go into adult education. She said, "If you want to become a great artist, go to the master." She said, adult education at that time in Santa Barbara, she said, they just sit around. You're not going to make progress. You're going to be there for years. Nothing's going to happen. If you want to become a great artist, go to the master. So my dad said, "Well, who's the master?" She said, "There's a man named Claude Buck." Now, this is a self-portrait of Claude Buck. He was once recognized as one of the 100 greatest living artists in the United States. He had done nothing but paint. He had taught at art institutes. He was a child prodigy. This guy was a remarkable artist. And as fate would have it, he moved from New York and then Chicago, then Santa Cruz, California. But a couple of years before that, he moved to Santa Barbara. Kitty West knew of him. Kitty West actually took lessons from Claude Buck. So she said, "Go see the master, Claude Buck." So my dad gets the address. So I think this is instructive too, Dan. My dad did not get the phone number and call a week later. he didn't think about it for a while. He got in his car and drove right over to 512 North Milpas Street in Santa Barbara. And he knocked on the door. He was directed. Claude's around back in the backyard. He's painting back there. So my dad runs back there. And he meets this guy right here. So you can see this picture. This is my dad and Claude Buck sometime later. It, of course, wasn't that first day, but you see Claude on the left, a master artist, 72 years old, and my dad on the right, 28-year-old who had never painted before. And so my dad says to Claude Buck, "Hi, my name is Don Paulson, and I want to become an artist. I want to learn to paint. I don't know if you're giving lessons, what the deal is, but I would like to learn how to paint." So Claude talked to my dad for a few minutes and then said 15 words that changed everything for my dad again. And here they are. 15 words from the master. "Let's see if we can make a great artist out of you in a year." And now think about this, Dan. It's crazy because Claude Buck, he had been an artist his whole life. He had taught people to paint his whole life. He knew what it took to become a great artist. To do it in a year? Now, he did not ask my dad for his resume. He didn't ask him for samples of his work. He didn't ask him where he went to school. He didn't ask him anything. What he saw in my dad was a burning desire. He just sensed it. He could see in my dad what my dad needed. Now, again, the only art class he ever took, he got a D in. So how could Claude be so bold to say that? Masters know that they can shortcut your learning curve. In 1 year, Dan, a guy who doesn't paint at all, and in 1 year make him a great artist? So when you talk about like how to have massive success quicker, go to the master who can help you get there. So my dad started taking lessons from Claude right away. And so I want to show you a contrast. So I'm going to show you in just a minute the first painting my dad ever did entirely by himself after taking lessons from Claude Buck. Okay, so I'm going to show you that painting in a minute. All the paintings before the painting I'm about to show you, Claude had helped my dad, and that's what masters do. They kind of help you over your shoulder, kind of help here and there. But it was the first painting my dad ever did entirely on his own. Now, here's the before. My dad likes sports art. The next painting I'm going to show you is sports art. But this is before getting lessons from the master, before going to the master, and then after going to the master. And let me just again go back.
What a difference.
There's quite a contrast, isn't there?
Yes.
When you go to the master, you learn what you need to know. You get the guidance that you need. You get the encouragement that you need. That's at least what my dad got from Claude Buck. Now, my dad's name is Don Paulson. Listen to this. This is such an interesting little side note. So my dad is finishing his first painting, not the one I just showed you. It was a really rough painting. It was the very first painting after getting some lessons with Claude. And my dad went to sign it. He's going, "I'm signing a painting for the very first time. Oh my goodness." And he said, "I didn't want to sign it Don Paulson, Claude Buck." My dad asked Claude, "May I use your name, Buck, as my artist's name?" So Buck Paulson. And now think about that. Some young kid comes along and he's raw. I mean, this guy he's painted one painting with me so far, and he wants to use my name? Claude Buck might have thought. You know what Claude's response was? "I would be honored." Because why? Claude Buck knew that he could make Don Paulson a great artist in a year. And my dad has always felt, he said, I've always felt this responsibility. When I sign a painting, Buck Paulson, that better be my best in honor to the master to whom he went. So just a couple more slides here. I just want to show you my dad. Some of you are, this is from 1986. This is a long time ago, but you can see the work, the painting. He's known as the king of the high seas because he paints these incredible seascapes. So anyway, that's the story. So again, what does this illustrate? What it illustrates is the shortcut that you can get. You can become great at marketing. You can become great at coaching. You can become great at copywriting. You can become great at running and operating a business. You can become great at whatever it is quickly when you go to the master or masters who can help you get there.
That's amazing. As you're listening or you're watching right now, like, what is that one simple idea worth to you? Right? You heard Timothy share his greatest mistake in contrast to someone like Joe Polish and others, and what he learned from it. And what would happen for you? Seriously, what would happen for you in collapsing time frames by focusing on going to a master for whatever problem you want to have solved? It could be in your personal life. It could be in your family life. It could be in your business life, right? Like, what would it be worth to just simply apply go to the master principle? Now, Timothy, as we wind this down today, I mean, there's just so much insight and wisdom here. And like literally we could spend days or weeks together unpacking everything you've learned. I want to give people a chance to learn more about how they can connect with you. If someone connects with your message, what you're looking to do, this new journey, 22222, right, where you're going to combine art and ministry, your new mission, like, where can they go to connect you? Where can they go to learn more about you?
That's an outstanding question. Well, let me hold up my book because you can get this on Amazon directly. But it's, what amazes me, Dan, is, and there's the website. So that's TotalityX.com. So there's 3 different paths there. Get your copy of the book. Watch the free gallery show. In the book, there's 18 different paintings, are full color, but if you want to see them and really understand them, the gallery show is really cool because you can listen to me talking about the painting and explaining it as well. And then claim your free art. I have $1 million painting, so I give that away. But any one of those will eventually lead to the Totality Ministries where you can learn more about that. But the book, I was just going to say, Dan, just amazing to me. It took me 60 years to have the experience that I needed to write the book. Took me over a decade to paint those paintings. Took me years to write the book. And you can get this for a few dollars. It's always amazing. So that's a way to go to the masters, isn't it, Dan? One of the ways that you and I have gone to the masters is that we have purchased their books. And you talk about shortcuts. So going back to the old marketing books, by Claude Hopkins and Robert Collier and these great copywriters and Dan Kennedy and Dan Sullivan and all these other books. And Dan, you've written books, Cut the Learning Curve. I've written books, Cut the Learning Curve. So anyway, that's it. TotalityX.com is a really good place to engage. So I want to encourage you, go to TotalityX.com. That's TotalityX.com. You can see a sampling of it here on the screen right now. TotalityX.com. Get Tim's book. Check out his gallery. Timothy's got a world of wisdom, a world of insights, strategies, and a whole lot more. And I have to tell you, if you go check out the free art, the mini that he will give you, this painting is amazing. I've seen the painting. I was fortunate enough where it was hung up in a very special place for a long time where I got to, be around it several times. I remember saying to Timothy, man, I would love that on my wall. And he said, yeah,
real simple. It's $1 million painting, right? And it's worth it. It's worth it. Like, I know that the right person or the right group or the right gallery will find the value in that painting because there's just a lot there. Anyway, go check out what Timothy is doing at TotalityX.com. Now, Timothy, what is something, like, again, there's just so much we could unpack here, and there's only so much time to do it. But what's something I should have asked you today that we didn't cover yet?
How my wife and kids and grandkids are doing. And thank you, Dan. They're doing fantastic.
All right. Well, let me throw you another curveball. This one is like an over-the-top Dwight Gooden curveball.
Okay.
So speaking of your wife, how long have you been married, Timothy?
We're in our 39th year.
So what I love about Timothy, and why I asked him, I knew approximately how long he had been married. What I love about Timothy is not only has he had this amazing success in business, but he also has an amazing family life. He brought it up a little bit earlier where he talked about, essentially, my paraphrase to it is, are you giving your family, your kids, leftovers?
Yeah.
Right? Are you giving your family leftovers? Are you giving yourself leftovers? Right? Be kind to yourself. Be kind to your family first. Right? Timothy has always prioritized his family up front and center first, and everything else has sprung off of that. So, Timothy, weird question. If you're going to turn to your wife and you were going to thank her, which I'm sure you do 1,000 times a week, but if you were going to thank her today, 5 minutes from now, what would you thank your wife for, and how she has shown up for you to support you, to allow you to pursue your passion, your dreams, and more?
Well, you kind of summarized it there. She has been supportive of everything that I've done. Now, she's really smart. She's very talented. So she is a great person to speak about things with. And she'll express a different opinion on certain things. But boy, when I make the decision, so 2/22/22, well, you know what? You're saying no now for the next 40 years to a lot of things that have been very good for us for a lot of years. And you're saying yes to some other things, right? And that's makes her a little nervous all of a sudden. Okay, so it's art and ministry. And but then she follows that up with, I believe in you 100%. I support you 100%. And whatever you decide, we're doing this together. So I do thank her, Dan. I thank her all the time. I mean, first of all, I thank her because she's exceedingly attractive. I mean, that's kind of helpful,
That is helpful.
And we have these 5 beautiful kids and 10 incredibly beautiful grandkids. They all take after her, of course. But, I just thank her for her undying love and support and her trust and her faith and confidence in me, despite my imperfections, despite my mistakes. I think she sees, okay, you've learned from these mistakes. You kind of can turn some of these imperfections into positives in life. So just the unbelievable support, confidence, faith, trust, and love. And I think that those are all very appropriate to thank her for.
Amazing. And thank you for, giving us a glance into your personal life, your business life, all of these things. And as you're listening or you're watching right now, it'd be hard not to really connect with Timothy, right? And he's on a mission. And that mission, depending on when you're seeing this, began or is beginning 2/22/22, or extending, I should say, beyond what he'd been doing to that next chapter, that Timothy 4.0, if you will, right? So I encourage you, go check out what Timothy is doing at TotalityX.com. That's TotalityX.com. Get his book, check out his gallery, check out the mini painting that he will make available to you. There's a lot of resources there, and I hope you connect with Timothy. And, here's a quick story. Our whole focus in this segment has been go to the master principle. So a damaging confession. Right around the end of the year, Timothy, I was sitting around looking at what I was going to do, my vision for 2022, for this next 12 months. And one of the things I realized is, my health, I had kind of let it go a little bit, and I got a little fluffy. I'll just call it over the holidays. Right. And so speaking of going to so we can, we always have choices, don't we? As you're listening or watching, you have a choice that you can go at it by yourself and, go through the grind of it. You can go get a course online or whatever, which, is one level, or you can do what Timothy's been talking about, go to a master, go to the master. And so I remember I've got a good friend of mine, Timothy, Jason, who I watched his, body transform. And I said, hey, Jason, could you do me a favor? Could you send me the connection of that? I can check it out. And so I went and checked out his site, looked at a little bit of his philosophy. And, his philosophy was, how to get fit, lean, and trim, especially if you're older. I'm in my 50s, right? Closing up, I'll be closer to 55 in about 2 months than I am 50. And so I'm, older at this point. So, doing like super high level, super like, high intensity interval type training may or may not. And what I loved about what JT said, Timothy, was, well, what if we could show you a way where literally you can walk for 45 minutes 3 times a week. You can eat 5 to 6 times a day, and you could let go of the weight that you don't want. And I was like, well, that sounds like a really good plan. And so we discussed it. And I also ultimately hired JT as my trainer and nutritionist to help me through this process, where we have one-on-one support 4 times a week in this process, right? And already in 2 weeks, like, this isn't like a magic button. This is a lifestyle shift where I've let go of 8 pounds in just a couple weeks of working with JT, right? So this is not only applies in business, it can apply to your personal life. Yeah. And I hope that as you're watching or listening, that if you really do want a shortcut to success, like, this isn't really a tactic. It's more of just leveraging other experts to save you time, to save you frustration, right? What's it costing you trying to do it on your own? Like, I know I've done a lot of exercise programs on my own, haven't you? Right? I've met a lot of people who go, well, I'm just going to go at it on my own to do my marketing, or I'm going to go at it on my own to learn all this stuff. I know you've got like 30 years of experience, but I'm going to do, I've not really invested more than 2 hours, but I'll see what I could do. Like, just think about it. What Timothy's been sharing with you, the wisdom, the insights, the strategy. Again, you can learn more about Timothy and what he's up to at TotalityX.com. As we wind this down, Timothy, what are 1 to 3 action steps you hope our viewers, our listeners, walk away with today?
Well, I'm going to talk about this painting that's behind me.
Amazing.
I have to mention this, right? Muhammad Ali. When I was a kid, growing up in the 60s and 70s, Muhammad Ali was the champ, and then he became the champ again, and then became a champ again. But I used to see him interviewed, and he would say, I am the greatest. He would say that regularly, right? And it kind of bothered me a little bit. Man, he's bragging. He's always bragging. He's always bragging. And then I painted this picture of Muhammad Ali a couple of years ago, and I was looking at Muhammad. I was looking into his eyes, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to go search for quotes about Muhammad Ali. It just kind of inspired me to go to the internet. And I came across this one. I am the greatest. I heard that 1,000 times. I said that before I knew I was. And I loved it so much that I added it to the painting, as you can see, right? So Muhammad Ali, it's like, oh my gosh, that principle, I think, is really, really important. I saw Banksy as a street artist in Britain. Nobody knows who he is. Famous guy that nobody knows. But a painting he did. If you want to be great, stop asking for permission. And it's like, too often we're just like when I paint a picture, and we could go on for days about this, but when I paint a picture, and when I started painting pictures years ago and pricing them, it's like, Dan, we're talking about my $1 million painting, right? Who gave me permission to price a painting at $1 million? It's It's called Rise from the Dust. It has a really cool story to it. It's in its own little gallery here in my art gallery. Who gave me permission? Nobody came along and said, hey, Timothy, you should price that, or I give you permission to price that for $1 million. Who gave me or any other author permission? You've got permission to write this book. You've got permission to publish it. You've got permission to get the message out there. Baloney. If you want to be great, don't wait for people to give you permission. And Muhammad Ali gave himself permission to become great. It's like nobody else was saying, you're the greatest. I'm the greatest. And I said it before I knew I was. So it's like the positivity of that. I am a great husband. I said that before I know I was. I'm, whatever it is, you fill in the blank. Those of you who are watching this, you fill in I am the what? A great marketer. I'm a great business person. I'm a successful business person. There's a power in that. And then don't wait for someone to come along and anoint you. Boom. Nobody said, hey, Timothy, you can start a ministry, Totality Ministries. I'm not waiting for permission. Nobody said, you can retire now at 22. You're 60 years old. Nobody said that. I gave myself permission. So give yourself permission. Know what to say no to and say no to. Know there's opportunity costs. Seek after the master. Really, Dan, it would be a matter of what do I want to accomplish? What do I want to become great? What do I want to be? What do I want to learn? Who are the masters? Don't be afraid to write the check. Those would be some of the things I would end with.
That is amazing, Timothy. And again, as you're watching or listening, go check out what Timothy is making available. Go to TotalityX.com. That's TotalityX.com to learn more about what Timothy's doing, what he's up to. He's Timothy Paulson. I'm Dan Kuschell. And by the way, as we close out the episode, our segment today, I challenge you to take action with what Timothy's been sharing. There's a lifetime of lessons here, right? Stop asking to be great. Stop asking to be amazing. And if you want to be great, stop asking for permission. That's the bottom line, right? If you want to be great, stop asking for permission, right? What do you want to be successful at? What do you want to learn? And if you want to shortcut all of that, to simplify it, to get on track much quicker, faster than, without the typical headaches, without having to grind it all by yourself, then what do? You go to the master principle. Go to the master principle, which is everything we've shared. So Timothy, I'm so grateful for our friendship over all these years. I learned a lot from you as a husband, as a dad, also in business. And I just can't wait to see where TotalityX.com, your book, your gallery, your ministry and art take you, over the next 40 for you. I'm just so excited for you. So thank you for taking the time today.
Dan, my pleasure. I appreciate you, my good friend. Thank you.
So there you have it. He's Timothy Paulson. I encourage you, take action with what Timothy shared with you. There's a world of wisdom here. You can come back to this episode. You can find it at breakthrough3x.com/alliance. That's breakthrough3x.com/alliance. You can also check this out on our podcast at growthtofreedom.com. That's growthtofreedom.com. Seize the day. Make it a great week. We'll see you next time on growthtofreedom.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of growthtofreedom.com. Are you struggling to get a steady flow of new clients every day? Or maybe hit a plateau or hit a wall in growing your business? Well, let's help you solve this problem today. Let's review your business and have a conversation. You can do that for free today at breakthroughstrategycall.com. That's breakthroughstrategycall.com. In addition, if you're looking for a simple way to implement some of what we've been talking about in today's episode, then I want to encourage you to get our free small business toolkit. You can get that at activate.breakthrough3x.com. That's activate.breakthrough3x.com. If you'd like access to the special resources and all the show notes for this special episode, make sure to visit growthtofreedom.com.